So Tepe-san is going to join. Tepe-san?
Tepe-san will already join.
You already joined? Oh. How do I see it? Here. Oh. Yeah. Tepe-san.
Tepe-san, yes.
Perfect. Should we get started? Yep. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMM Working Group IETF 122. I'm Shrey Gundavalli. I work for Cisco and my co-chair.
Satoru Matsushima from SoftBank.
Okay. First thing, please be aware of the IETF's IPR policy. When starting a presentation, you must say if there's IPR associated with your draft. There's restrictions listed in section 5 of RFC 3978/4948 apply to your draft. Please read through this statement about the IPR policy. And there's a notable statement. Please be aware of that IETF operates under some rules and conditions. Please be aware of, as a participant, you're expected to agree to those requirements. There's a number of documents around how we should, around covering those aspects. Please read through this. So we no longer need blue sheets, but note takers, anyone? John, thank you so much. John is going to be the note taker. And if there's a JavaScript, anyone, that will be great. If not, okay, this is what we have on the agenda for today. These are the working group documents. There are two documents. One is close to completion, and there's a second one is we'll know today on when it should go last call. This is what we have on the agenda today. We'll first go through the working group documents, followed by individual draft presentations. At this point, I'll pause. If there are any comments on the agenda, please speak up. Okay. Also, I see Lionel joining. Lionel, maybe I'm putting you on the spot. Any chance you might be able to give me a 2-minute update on 6G like 2 weeks back? Any summarization that you can do? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, but today some time? Okay, perfect. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Okay, with that, we'll first start with the architecture discussion on SRv6. Tepe-san is going to remotely do the presentation. Tepe-san, are you there? Do I need to do anything?
He's there, but
This is not. Welcome, Eric. No worries. Suresh. No? Sure. Eric is our AD director. Is going to give a quick update. I want to use this instead.
I just wanted to say, as this is the March IETF, this is when we seat a new IESG and a new IAB, and there's no change for int area this time. The other Eric is returning. I'm continuing, but I wanted to say I don't intend to run for a fourth term. So if you think you want to be an int AD, now might be a good time to start thinking about that. Maybe warming up your management to let them know that this is a thing you want to do. Ask questions, find Suresh, find me, find any other area director. If you think you want to be an AD, the applications will be from sometime in the summer. And so, but now might be a good time to start greasing the wheels.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. With that, application is there. Okay. Okay. We are going to go with our first presentation. Slight change in order. Architecture discussions on a Service X mobile user plane. Tepe Kamata-san.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hold on. One second. One second. It's very loud. We are trying to figure it out. Just hold on. Please don't speak. Eric, you mind pinging this guy support? Tepe-san, can you say something? A very small sentence. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Still lower, little bit. Okay. Now again
Okay.
try.
Hello.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Please continue. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay. So let me share the slide. Oh, no. Mm, Sorry.
He's okay. Share. Okay. Yeah. Grants. Yeah, I'm doing. Yeah. Can I try?
Looks I can't share the screen.
Yeah, Tepe-san, just we are trying to grant access something. It's not allowing us. Give us 10 seconds again. Sorry about this. Yeah. One second. Oh, no, I'm not sharing it. Okay. Share slides. I'm trying to see how to start sharing. Can you try to take control? No? Slots are requested. We are already open. Okay, I'll leave the room. Is it better? Tepe-san?
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for taking time to update us on this draft today. My name is Tepe Kamata. Today, on behalf of the authors, I would like to update you on the draft of the architecture discussion on SRv6 mobile user plane. Okay. Here is the agenda for today. as this is the first presentation as a working group draft, so I'd like to start with an overview. And then I'd like to explain the update in draft 01. And finally, I would like to discuss the next steps. Okay, let me start with the overview. This document discusses the solution approach and its architecture benefits of translating mobile session information into routing information, applying segment routing capabilities, and operating in routing paradigm. It is meant to be an informational document to describe the underlying motivation for the DMM MEP works. So it means RFC 9433, segment routing over IPv6 for mobile user plane, and draft MHKK, DMM MEP architecture, mobile user plane architecture for distributed mobility management. So this is overview of the architecture recap. So left side picture describes conventional mobile architecture. It's non-optimal for any-to-any communication, non-optimal for edge distributed computing, non-optimal for fixed and mobile wireless mobile convergence. Because of the anchor point of the UPF, so no control of the underlay path. With SRv6 MVP conversation information to routing information and applies segment routing capabilities and operate in routing paradigm. So SRv6 MVP can convert session information to routing information and applies segment routing paradigms. So we are describing 3 use cases in this draft, network slashing, and edge computing, and URLLC. In all use cases, MEP converting the session information to routing information. It works and optimize the use cases. And this document has simply focused on this use case descriptions. So, and let me explain the draft update in this revision. The author is changed. So myself takes over this draft. Miyakono stayed as a co-author, but I'm taking over the main author of this draft. And Wei Qiang from the China Mobile has joined as a co-author of this draft. And this document also mentioned beyond 5G use cases. We are considering the same use cases can be applied for beyond 5G use cases. So next step, we already introduced previous comment and feedbacks. Any other feedback for this document? Your feedbacks are highly appreciated. And if there is no feedbacks and it's okay to go, we'd like to ask the working group last calls. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time. So that's a presentation from my side. So any feedbacks and comments on this draft?
Thank you, Tepe-san. Thank you for that update, and sorry for the technical issues. Any questions, comments on the documents on this presentation? Okay. Tepe-san, where are we with respect to the document? When is it going to be? You think it's okay? You think the document is ready for last call?
Yeah, we believe so.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, John. Yeah, now It's too low. Is that? Yeah. I know. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, John from Future Way, just a clarifying question, more or less. During the presentation, you mentioned about routing aspects related to the session. Are you considering the other aspects of a session, for example, charging or other aspects of control, legal intercept, or anything like that, that has an impact directly or indirectly to this mechanism?
Uh, Thank you for your comment. We are not focusing charging lawful intercept concept on this draft. Uh, okay, let's okay. It's a good question, so we will update on this draft. Yeah, currently we are not including such a information on this draft, so we'll comment. We'll add the comment on this.
Thank you, Tepe-san. Any other questions? Okay. So if not, thank you, Tepe-san. I think we'll follow up in the working group. We'll ask for some reviews and then proceed to last call. Yeah. And I think on this technical issue, I guess that's a more a feature issue, I guess, with respect to lawful intercept support or other things. Maybe we can open a thread in the in the mailer as how you plan to address that, or if you think it's relevant or not relevant, that will greatly help.
Okay, thank you.
Here in IETF, do we need to mention about the charging and lawful intercept as a IETF charter, as a DMM charter? I don't think we have a data then. So the question. Hello?
That's a fair point. If you're not addressing, as long as you close the thread, that's it.
So my comment is, do we need to mention about the charging lawful intercept in the IETF venue? Okay.
Eric, no hats. We don't have to,
No,
but
Eric, I think,
we don't have to mention it. No hats. I don't think we have to mention it, but you could say that you could make a passing reference to the fact that there are SR documents that talk about how to do replication. There's a replication SID, but you could build a SID. You could build a tree.
Right.
And just say that it supports that.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Okay, we'll if there are no other questions, we'll follow up in the mailer. I think, yeah, Keir.
Sorry, I had to log in to get on the queue here.
Oh,
But K. Urbital Arcus, I would agree. This is an informational document. You don't have to add it.
thank you. Okay, with that, once again, thank you. And we'll move on to the next presentation. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tepe-san. Okay, you want to take control. So, okay. We'll share the next one. John.
Thank you. Could someone take notes for this, please? I'll follow up after I come back, but for just this, if someone can take notes, that'd be great. So hello everyone, this is the mobility aware transport network slicing for 5G. It's going through last call, and we've got some very good reviews and a number of comments that have been addressed. So I've just listed out the sequence of comments. So one of the comments. So the first comment that we have received was that the status of the draft was changed from info to standard. And we clarified during the discussion that it was because we included a Yang model in there. And so far, there's some discussion that it may need to be a standard or it may not be. At the moment, we have revised it back to informational. But just yesterday, I think Lionel had raised a comment that this may require a standard status. The authors are willing to follow whichever one is the right approach. We don't have a particular take on that. My understanding so far is that informational is okay, but if we need to, then we can discuss offline. Or does anybody have further feedback on that?
So John, I think maybe Eric may have view on this, because one thing is this document was, when we accepted this document, it was an informational fact, right? So you want to understand the implications suddenly going from informational to standards.
Okay.
So
can I give some background on that? So when we started this, or when we were working on this, the aim was to use a field in 3GPP called EP transport. And under EP transport, we would then carry the information that would then allow you to classify these slices. But that had a dependency on 3GPP taking up the work. And in further discussion with our co-authors and Lewis, who are working on the slicing in the T side, the developments over there was to use an attachment circuit. And the attachment circuit was also accepted by 3GPP at the same time. So these are things that happen after the adoption into as a working group draft. So now we can drop that dependency to 3GPP and simply use the ACAS to classify the slice. So that's the reason why those changes occurred. And as a result, we now have a Yang model that has been extended for UDP. So that's the background to this whole discussion.
May I ask a question? This document refers to 3GPP network slices or IETF network slices or both?
It does both. So it is classifying 3GPP slicing. So that is the S and SSAI in 3GPP. But to transport it over an IETF transport network, it's using an IETF slice. And that mapping between that S and SSAI to what is in a transport network, we are leveraging the work in T's and extending it for a layer 3 bearer. For in detail, I mean, the T's work classifies a layer 2 bearer, for example, VLANs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're taking a PDU session, that's a layer 3 bearer, and that's a UDP bearer. So we're extending that, a lot of the things that was done there, but extending the bearer to a layer 3 bearer.
Right. So we're updating an existing IET. We're talking about referring to an existing IETF Yang document.
It's not just referring to, but it's also extending.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So then there really shouldn't be any. I mean, I'll defer to Charles to correct me, but like there really shouldn't be any objection from 3GPP to us talking about this stuff in terms of IETF. Yeah. So then I think, I mean, we're not going to have the same standards track versus informational conflict we had with the SRv6 mobile user plane document.
No, but
Yeah,
Eric,
because this is all IETF stuff.
Right. But Eric, are you suggesting we agree with the standards track, going on standards track with this document? Because see, the way I understand, if there's a mapping to SNSI, which is a 3GPP way of identifying a slice, to IETF's way of identifying a slice, if that mapping exists, can we not loosely identify it and say that, based on this, informationally, that's how you map and you move on. Do we need
Thank
to?
you.
Why do we need to change the standards? Why do we need to put this document on standards track?
I don't know that any change in status is actually required. I haven't followed
Okay.
this point. So
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
we are free to change the status because we're only dealing with
Yeah, that's true. Right.
how IETF technologies realize a 3GPP slice. So
Okay.
yeah, I think whichever status is correct will probably depend on what Yang doctors tell us and what IANA tells us and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So,
I think this is a view, Eric, at least Sato-san may have a different view, but because we initially accepted this document as informational, we'll try to keep it on that track unless there's a good technical reason to say that, no, we need to move to standards track. But otherwise, if we can manage it, without changing the track, we'll keep it this way.
okay, I can take an action item to follow
Okay.
up on some of this.
Sure. Any
Thank you.
comments? Okay. Lionel?
Yeah, Lionel, thank you. Yeah, I think it was, so I agree with what you said. I've checked actually what it is required. It's a RFC document, but the nature of the document is not specified here. And I think info would be suitable here because first of all the information regarding the use of the slide and so on, I would say for information, we're just reusing information already specified somewhere else. And we're just explaining how we could reuse this information in this mobility word transport network slicing. So I think it's fine. So at least from info versus standard, I think info is fine for me.
Okay. Thank you, Lionel. Thanks for the clarification. So, John, maybe we'll. I know I did say we'll take up AI on this. I'll also check with Eric and close it on this.
So for the moment, I think we can leave it as revised to informational and
Yes. For the timing, yeah.
and I'll follow up.
Please. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So then,
One clarification. So I'm just curious. So you you edited the information model depicted in the draft. EP transport doesn't have the SNSSAI actually, but the
it's in the next
okay. Okay, great. Go ahead.
next page, please.
Yeah.
So here, this is a comment from Satoru-san's review as well, as was the previous one. So in the version 16 of the draft, we had EP transport and then SNSSAI over there. So EP transport, that's not correct actually. So it's been revised. So the short of it is that we've revised to say that SNSSAI is information that's there in these nodes, but the EP transport is really IP address and the attachment circuit part of it. So that has been corrected. It was an error in the figure, but in the rest of the text, it has been said clearly that it's the SMF would populate this SNSSAI into the G node B and the UPF so that they have an understanding that this session, whichever session that is for a particular SNSSAI. So that's dynamic data that is updated on a per session basis. You can say one session has got SNSSAI A, the next has got B, and so on. Whereas the other fields are configuration information that is a transport or EP transport information. So now, the rest of the draft was okay, but the figure was wrong, and we have corrected it to be aligned. Does that answer the question? Or
Thank you. But I'm still not clear what's the exact key to bind the 3GPP slice to IETF slice using the Yang model.
okay. I have a figure at the end of the draft. Would you like to switch to that now? I can do that.
Yeah, I think you depicted it very well, how the mapping be done, but I couldn't find the exact information model, data model in both of the SGPP spec and ITF spec. That's my question. What's the exact key?
So if I can refer to the slides at the very end, a couple of slides, is that okay? To move, then I can answer that question because there's a lot of, it's in the backup diagrams. the next page maybe. Yeah. So this is how EP transport to ACAS, I mean, this is how the mapping is taking place. So you have the EP transport to the external endpoint reference list, which is a connection point info. And that connection point info in turn has a connection point type, which is of an attachment circuit. So this is the model in, I mean, I'm just linking all of the relationships in 28.541.
Yes, but what's the key to bind the EP transport to specific
So that is the SNSSAI.
SSI, which data model refer the EP transport based using SNSSAI?
So that's the one that is developed. The ACAS that is developed in T's. If you go to the next page, you'll see that. So that's the link to the 3GPP part. I mean, sorry, the IETF part. So what's on the right side of the figure, the L3 tunnel service to everything that's there on that slice is developed in T's. So what we need is an extension to link that to the IETF T's part.
Okay, so ITF part is clear. So,
Yeah.
but my concern is this work really helps the CGPP slicing using the ITF slice. But to do that, the ITF need to provide the clear key to be referred from the CGPP slice instance. So what's the data model enable that? That's my question.
So that data model would be, I mean, how the SNSSAI and this part is linked is data in the Gnode B or in a UPF or in the F1U side to the. So,
Okay. So
I think that
if you,
exists. Yeah.
If you could please clarify which data model um, before the EP transport as a part of the SNS AI. I couldn't find that model in the 3GPP spec.
So the 3GPP spec will talk about the SNSSAI part and all of that. The EP transport has the ACAS links, and so all
Okay.
of that exists
Okay.
already. And how it is used is described in this document.
Okay, so EP transport is the key to bind the IGTF slice to 3GPP
Yes.
slice. But
Yes.
I couldn't find the exact data model in the 3GPP. Which model you mentioned about that?
That's on the previous page. I mean, we are using this model.
So how about this, John?
Yeah, maybe I can take that
because
offline,
this
yeah.
requires some more analysis, right? Why don't you, if you authors take an action item, right? To
Yeah.
really exactly say, I think to Satoru-san's point, like
Okay.
what is the key, how that mapping works, and we go from there. Very nice. Yeah.
Yes. Luis Contreras from Telefónica. Probably we need to go through two other documents in this. There is one document about the mapping of 5G slices, 3GP 5G slices to the for using the MBI YAM model in this, and then the proper document describing the MBI YAM model in this. So probably we can do the exercise of better referring to those here and maybe showing more clearly the link.
Okay. Exactly.
So we can take it as an action.
Yeah,
That
I'll
will-
work with you then.
That will be nice.
He's a co-author, so we
Okay,
can work on
excellent,
that.
excellent. So you guys are going to address it anyway. You're going to add some text around this to Satoru-san's point, right? It's not clear, maybe clarifying text and with a clear mapping how that entire flow is working. I think that will be great. Yeah. All right, thank you
We
so
can do
much.
that. Yeah. So back, okay, we're back here. So yeah, this we have an action to revise. So the next change. Okay, so I think this is related to the attachment set. I mean, this is really addressing part of the question that came up in the, how is this related to that data structure? So I guess this was talked about on the discussion, but it's related to the question that Satsusan asked. So we can go to the next update then. So these were a couple of comments that Tianji brought up. I mean, one is on the very top. This hasn't been changed, but it's a proposed change for the next revision. The standardized SST values. So I think, one is that we have to say that it's an example, but we don't need to make it exhaustive. So I can make it such that it's an example and not exhaustive. So that's the first change, A. The second one, I think, is an important one. The change B in so the 5G net function takes a 5QI into consideration when selecting the GTPU port number. So that part of it, we are not taking the DSCP into consideration. So the point is, I mean, and that's what the revision we've made says. The TNP does not consider 5QI in the DSCP or GTP header for mapping the slice. It's using SNSSAI. And within that slice, you could have multiple DSCPs. Um, so for example, if you wanted to map how, if it's a slice that requires hard isolation, that's not a DSCP value. So that's why we, classify by the SNSSAI, and the QoS that the flow wants within that slice would be respected in whichever way is needed. We don't address that in this draft. So that's a good comment.
Yeah,
And
that's a good point, because
very good point.
I think it's a misunderstanding to link like your DSCP at a slice level, right? I think that is, yeah, absolutely.
That's a good, thanks, James. Yeah. So I think these were the changes. Those are the comments. I mean, so what's pending really is the mapping from the data structures in 3GPP to what's proposed in T's and how they all link
Yeah.
up together. Yeah.
And the other issue on the standards track, which we will take, right? So any questions and comments on this document? So we should last call, but I think there were no objections, but at the same time, people didn't jump in and say it's in a great shape. So I think allowed to, we want some more feedback before we can forward to IESG. So we can't just forward documents with 2 reviews, 3 reviews, right? We need more. Any volunteers? Okay, Charles.
Thanks.
Anyone? We need more reviewers. Anyone? Okay, Lionel, thank you. I know you did already.
Yeah, I did already,
Yeah,
but I can
yeah.
I can like
Okay,
be
one more,
volunteer to
okay.
review last.
That helps. Anyone else? Folks, I think, folks, whoever have documents, should contribute to other reviews. It's not fair. We can't move, forward. We need more volunteers. Please send us an email, or please send your reviews to the working group. John, thank you. I think most likely we'll, wrap up this work and send the document to maybe very soon.
Thanks for all the feedback and reviews. Appreciate it very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have, there's a mobile traffic staying, but Marco is sick. Okay, TNG is going to give a quick update.
No slide, but can you show the comparison between the current version and the previous one? Yeah, I will just do the cause. I got a email like 30 minutes back, and the Marcus, who was supposed to do some presentation, got cannot come over, and we this time we haven't prepared the slides. I really thought Marco will do it, so I got off guard.
Yeah,
So
that's unfortunate. He said he's terribly sick, so hopefully he's okay.
yeah, hopefully.
Okay, if you can, what changed? I think the rev, if you can, what Marco
Yeah.
said is going to
Yes,
update us.
and then
Like,
can you share that? Yeah. Just to share the comparison. Yeah, last time Marco did a presentation and then got a lot of comments, and then this time, we changed. Actually, we made we'll see like a significant changes, but the structure is still there. So the first major part is in the 5.4. If you look at 5. Can you go down? Yeah, 5.4. Yes, the control interface part, that one is being added to address the control interface between the MCS, the mobile communication system, and the MTS, the the transport, the service TN part, that is, and also to address the user plans between the MCS and MTS. This is the major things like the C1 and the C2. It's for control part, and the D1 and the D2 here in the figure 6 is for the UPA, you can consider like the user plane anchor or some like UPF in the 5GS term. And the DPN is like a node in the TN, the transport network. And then you got the D1 and the D2 there. And the second one, the figure, the 7 part is the CMTS, the reference between the UPA and the DPN. So basically, you have the control, both control the control plane and the user plane interfaces between the UPA and the DN. When we look at these two things, figure 6 and figure 7 are very important here. And based on those type of things and also some discussions, here we add the chapter 6, the operational aspect. Originally is chapter 6, a design recommendation. Now we call it like operational aspect. So based on the architecture we have, remember, we have MCS, the communication domain, MCS, we have MTS, we have the TN domain, and then we have the DN. So here we categorize the operation models into 3 types. The first one is a dedicated control plane. So in the figure 8, we define the control interfaces between the MCS control plane and the MTS control plane, C1 and C2. And then the user plane is between the UPA and the DN. So this is for the dedicated control plane for deployment and operation. So MCS domain and MTS domain will exchange and signaling between each other on the dedicated part. On the, if you look at the figure 8 on the top channel or top path. The next one is of course is the distributed figure 9. Yeah. Can you go down to figure 9 here? Yes. No, this is, yes. Let me see here. For the figure 9 part here, you can, this is like distributed. So basically, the control and data plan with the deployment model, well, between the UPA and the DPN, this is like the distributed. Remember the UPA like the UPF, a node, or some, you can consider like a router in the mobile domain, and the DPN like a router in the TN transport domain here. This is like, this is a distributed model. And the third one will be like a hybrid. If you go down the hybrid part, and then go down figure 10. Sorry. Yeah, figure 10. This is not, yeah, 10. Yeah, go down. Yes, this is the figure 10 here. You have both the centralized control channel, and also you have the distributed control channel. One is on the, if you look at the figure 10, you have one on the top part and one on the bottom part. And also the data plane will be operated on the bottom between the UPA and the DPN side. So this is like the deployment and operational model based on the architecture we have proposed in the previous sections. So remember, we have the centralized, we have distributed and hybrid. So we have architecture, we have a deployment, and then we have operational model. So in section 7, we give one exemplary application of MTS to a 5G system. Can you go down here? This is just the figure 11, just to show you what is 5GS and how it interact with as MCS interact with MTS and also DN. Because of the space here, if you look at the right side of the picture, it comprises of both MTS on the top part and also the DN on the bottom part here. So it's like, if you consider this one, it's this like exemplary application diagram when we apply the architecture and the deployment model. And then in the bullets just below the figure, we have, okay, for the dedicated control plane, how the 5GS is working. And for the decentralized CP, how it works. We reference some CT document like the 29561 about the things. And also the bullet, the hybrid control plane part. And then we say, okay, it's going to have both the top part of the figure 11 and also the bottom part of the figure 11. So this is like when we apply our architecture deployment model, operational model to the 5G as one example. One another significant change is for the information model, the information flow part. We move to the appendix because we think that is more that probably too many details. It's significant, but it's more suitable for the appendix part. So yeah, this is the change from the last time, and we have put the email on the alias and also answer some questions like is the relationship to the cats and provide, okay, what is this one, how it's going to interact with cats, or what the relation with cats, all kind of things. So basically, we think we have addressed all the comments from the previous presentation. Also, the authors, we do believe it's in very good shape. Or it's apologize for we don't have the slides this time, but we do think it's in very good shape and provide the useful information. So we want to know the opinion about the group. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that update. Any questions, comments? I think one observation is, we cannot make this so 3GPP with all the 3GPP jargon. If you,
It's not.
I think
Yeah.
it should be much more generalized if this, if you
This is the
want
change.
this to go
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
recommendation is make sure it's generalized in a way that it is not, we don't tie it so deep that 3GPP guys jump in and say, what are you guys doing? So
Right.
again, same comment.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I can answer here because this is just like a diff comparison. Actually, the draft, including everything, is generic. It's very end at the section 7. We just give one example. It's like, okay, we have this generic framework, architecture deployment model, and then, well, it can be applied to the 5G. It's not restricted or very specific to 5G. Yes, that is it.
See, if you look at, you can, if you want to make it relevant, right, steering can be on any, if you have an aggregation gateway, like even if you go back to, mobile API architectures, home agent, right, you still have an N6 kind of interface, right? I think, that if you generalize it to those terms, yeah, we can say, yeah, it's applicable to here, 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 yeah, including 3GP system.
Right.
I
right.
think that should be the effort. Again, it's an individual document right now. At this point, everything's okay, but that would be my advice.
Okay.
Any other? Yeah.
Thank you very much for your update. But I think the shape is good. But I think it would be better to clarify the difference between the steering vs routing. So I think you leverage the routing as well for the steering. But if the steering includes routing, so what's the routing part be uh, crucial for the steering technique? So I'm not sure which specific steering technique be used. I understand routing is a very much typical way to steer the traffic, but if you mention about steering instead of the routing, what's the exact technology steer the traffic in addition to the routing?
Yeah, this is the routing part here is more on the TN side, and then the routing is more like we consider it's on the between the UPA, we call it like a user plane anchor, avoiding using the UPF the term. So it's like between the UPA and the DPN. DP is like a data plane node in the TNC. So they're going to run the routing. Or doesn't matter what a RIB, BGP, those type of things. The routing is just like the signaling from the TN to the MCS domain here. And then for the MCS to steering traffic based on that information, okay, to do the steering. And this is for the distributed in the draft. And then for the control, for the centralized, it has another between the MCS controller and the MTS controller. And then it can exchange. It's more like some policies, those type of things to influence the traffic steering on MCS. Because our draft is a mobile traffic steering. Yeah. So it has both ways. Yeah.
Okay, I think I really appreciate if you can clarify and define what the steering is in the draft. I think you already explained very well, so I think it'd be better to note it in the draft.
Sure, thank you. Yes, I will do it. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So maybe a follow up to that. Right? So can you do steering if there are more than one router on the path between the UPF and the data network?
Exactly. It's you can since just like if you
Yeah.
have the UPA on the mobile domain, you have the DPN on the TN domain. This is just like you can run like the routing peers and to exchange. Yeah.
So that means if there are more than one router, on every transit router, you're going to insert the steering state?
No. For the transit node on the TN part, we're not going to influence the TN inside. No. We're not going to do that things. The mobile traffic steering things like. But if the TN domain, suppose TN domain run the whatever the cats or based on the information to send those information to the neighbor DPN, such that neighbor DPN send to the UPA, it's going to influence. But from our side, we're not going to require the TN to do this type of things. Yeah, we just like get a free ride if they do provide. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. We'll follow up.
Yeah. Okay.
Any questions, comments? Okay. There are none.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So sorry we don't have the slide this time, but yeah, good.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the next presentation, SRH reduction for SRVX, Yuya-san.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So I'd like to make update from the last IETF revision number 2 and from. Okay, next slide, please. So briefly, I'd like to recap this draft. So this draft is proposing the making the MGTP6E behavior more hardware friendly. So because the current MGTP6E behavior utilize two SRv6 seed to reconstruct the GTP packet of the IPv6. So it is very difficult to handle this SRH in the hardware because of the router need to read the two seed from the packet and then reconstruct the GTP headers. So so we now proposing the new behavior named MGTP6E reduced, which is proposing the utilize just one seed to reconstruct the GTP header by restricting some addressing schemes. Okay, next slide, please. So the update from the last IETF meeting is just two things. So I unallocated a code point for this behavior 168.0x008A8, and I made IPR disclosures, and so there is no undisclosed patent and IPR about this draft, as I know. So it is ready for working group adoption call. So I'd like to ask the working group to do an adoption call. And thank you for Ketan-san to suggesting me some process. Any comments?
Okay, thank you so much. Any yeah, please. Jeffrey.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to registering that. Jeffrey from Juniper. Since this requires the information that is gathered through the MapSefi solution, why not make this part of that one? Yeah, having these standalone draft documents does not seem.
Say that again, Jeffrey. I did not.
So why not make this, put this into the other drafts, because it requires the information provided to the MapSefi solution. Instead of having a standalone specification, just specify this in the other draft.
Yeah, I think it is not difficult to merge the MapSefi draft and this behavior draft. So because MapSefi draft just defines BGP protocols, but this draft doesn't define the BGP protocol. That's doing the behavior of the root router. So if I need to merge this draft to the another one, that the target is SRv6 map draft, not a map Safi draft, because that's RFC. That is not draft. That becomes RFC. That RFC defines the end MGTP6E.
I thought you mentioned that to do this, you need to make use of information that is signaled through in that MapSefi draft. Maybe I misunderstood that, but if you go back to the earlier slides.
Maybe MapSafi could be a one way to signal the information, but other way would be possible. So this draft should be independent from the MapSafi draft.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't register. I'm sorry, K. Patel Arkash. I actually agree. MapSafi will be a carrier, but like Satoru-san said, it may be a way. We could have other ways also. So keeping it separate may be a better thing for us now. By the way, that applies to all mobile functions that are defined in future as well as part of this working group as well.
Okay, thank you for that comment, Jeffrey. Okay. Any other questions, comments? So what are the next steps, Yuya-san, on this?
Yeah, I like to make a working group adoption call on the mailing list.
Okay. Folks, any volunteers before we issue the call? We want some reviews. I think, we can't, care. Okay, thank you. Are you an author on this? No. Okay. Lionel, Suresh.
Thank you.
Anyone else? One more person, please. Okay. Come on. Derek? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, after that we'll issue the adoption call. Yeah. Thank you so much. This one, mop. Okay.
Just a question. On the, is it foreseen to have a revision of this one to make the draft independent of the SAFI proposal or not? To make it independent, because as it is written, it is based on the fact that we are using this container to provide this information. But is it intended to modify the draft so far to make it completely different? Because it is one of the possibilities, right? Yes. But as it is written, it is said it is based on or rely on the fact. So I can't. Well, okay, it's something that we can clarify offline.
Okay. Next is map architecture, Satoru-san, SoftBank.
Hello everyone, this is Satoru from SoftBank. I'm give some update on the map architecture draft after the adoption call request and review. So please go ahead. Next slide. So I got some useful comment. Thank you very much for reviewers. I pick up some major comment in here. So one is DMM requirement compliance and segment type and session transport route type. So please go ahead, next slide. So first major comment was regarding the DMM requirement compliance. The question is, does map architecture conflict with the DMM requirement 5? So the requirement 5 mentioned that coexisting with deployed network host and operability across different networks. So it will have the many meanings, but the text in the requirement 5 mentioned the DMM solution must be able to coexist with existing network deployment and host and router that may or may not implement existing mobility protocol. And the next sentence is should work across different network, possibly operate as a separate administrative domain. So I couldn't understand what exactly the question came, but my reply is map architecture does coexist with the existing mobile service system deployment as a plugin and with end host and make it deployable across a multiple administrative domain. So my answer is the map architecture comply the requirement 5. The related comments here is the isn't map independent from control plane only. I guess it's because interwork with user plane. So my reply be a as map is an independent architecture. Each mobile service system specific option will be defined to the segment discovery and session transport route and user plane interwork behavior. So the dependency between the existing mobile system be very narrow and confined only on the option for the each of the mobile service specific things. Okay, so please go to next slide. So next comment will be segment type. So the question is, why is it required to define different segment type while the seed segment ID define the behavior? So the question be see the segment routing behavior define the tailored behavior for each of the to fit the each of the segment, but the purpose of the multiple type of the segment is the segment discovery. The segment discovery route should provide appropriate routing information to resolve the session transport route for the reachability. And we also have the different type of the session transport route. Each session transport route require different routing attribute set to resolve the reachability. So that reason, we define segment type for this, the each of the type and the purpose. The related comment here is which pre-configured knowledge does the map controller have? The session information includes MAG, MAG is the term of the PMIP, and or GNOD in CGPP term. That's the UE, MN attached to, and TID in case of CGPP. That need to be associated with the PE and its segment. That'd be a good question as well. But the GNOD or MAG address could be included in the map SAFI interwork segment discovery route in an LRI. So it enables ingress PE to resolve the UE prefix reachability with the GNOD address by using the prefix in the interwork segment discovery route. So that's how the map SAFI works to resolve and find the right gateway and right reach connectivity, even the UE move around among the multiple GNOD and multiple map PE. Okay. So next slide, please. So third one is session transport route. So it's a very similar question, but why is different type of session transport route? This is because each session transport route type has required different routing behavior. So ST1, session transport 1, for UE address routing lookup, it's really, really usual to find the next hop by using the destination prefix. This is ST1, but ST2 is a little bit unique. ST2 for uplane tunnel endpoint lookup, mostly on uplink or maybe downlink as well. So this is the difference between ST2, ST1. It is ST1 for UE prefix lookup, but ST2 is for tunnel endpoint lookup. So this is very unique point of the map architecture for a session transport route. So we defined the two different session transport route so far. Maybe we define the another type of the session transport route in the future, but so far we defined the two types. of the session transport route. Okay, so please go ahead. Next slide, please. So another update here in revision 2 was uh, map extended community. The community is very much BGP specific attribute, but the map architecture adopt BGP as the preferred routing protocol. So map extended community carry the segment type specific metadata. The previous draft mentioned a little bit about map extended community, but this revision make much more detailed description for the map extended community to carry the metadata for a segment type specific. So next bullet mention about clarification on DSD, direct segment discovery route. So the other work is going on. That work suggests the architecture to clarify more on DSD route. So we made some update on the DSD route section. See, to not only for network abstraction, but also the service or any type of the resource. As the CAT map work, the CAT map work see the DSD route as the resource of the computing resource. So I think the map architecture can allow that extension. So we update the DSD route clarification. The last bullet mention about some technical edit. The ST2 route resolution way using ISD in addition to DSD, and terminology consistency throughout the document, and the abbreviation extension. So that's what we did in this current revision of the map architecture draft. Okay. Please go ahead. Next slide. So this is a recap for map architecture is. You can see the three bullet the map architecture characteristic. And go to next slide, please. So this is the notice to ID authors. DMM service map architecture is superseded by map architecture draft. Please be aware. And I can still see the draft refer the previous draft. So please update your draft. Next slide, please.
On this one question, did you guys link them by sending a note to the secretary? There's a way to link both the documents.
No.
No. Okay. I want to do that.
So this is FAQ. Please see that two question, very typical. And go to next slide, please. Okay, so next step. Thank you very much for your review. I think we are ready for adoption. So I will ask.
Okay. Any questions, comments, Kair?
Hey, Kevin Patel Arcus. This is a note to working group chairs and AD particularly. When it comes to this draft, there are 5 drafts, and particularly the subset of the drafts that have been listed here has to do with implementations. And there are 5 implementations as of now existing on a couple of these drafts. So it is very important that working group take this draft seriously and push it towards adoption and further out, because we've got implementations running in the field. And while it is not a charter of this working group, and that's why the note to AD, to follow implementations, there are implementations outside in other working groups that we would bring to your attention and consider this as a bit more of a higher priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Kair. I think only thing my response would be like, the feedback in the mailing list is also important, right? I understand about the implementations. I'm totally aware of that. But I think, working group participation and reviews are, I'm happy to forward the work as long as the reviews.
Again, a note to chairs there that you should issue a working group call. Feedbacks should be taken into account. Obviously, we work together to solve this, but please note that there are 5 implementations in field being deployed, and this is just an architecture draft. What I'm trying to raise a little bit of sensitivity is that there is a stable network going for which the architecture has been discussed in this working group. So, not meaning to ignore any comments, but I think we need to progress this work ASAP.
No, I totally understand what we have process here. Yeah, Suresh. Yeah.
Yeah, Suresh Krishnan. So I think like we probably need to have a careful read of the charter to see if there's a recharter required. Probably not, right? Like that's the part we need to worry about, right? So if it's just a deliverable, it's just between you and Eric to kind of figure out if the new deliverable needs to get added.
Great.
So I think at a high level thing,
Yeah.
I don't think the recharter is needed, but I think probably that's something. If somebody brings up an issue, that's what you need to worry about, right? Like that's people say, oh, this is outside the charter,
Yeah.
but like I think the charter is pretty wide for DMM because
Exactly.
like from my time, so like I think it's probably just going to fit. I think.
I completely agree with that. Charter is not the issue. I think I was more concerned about the reviews. I think we want more substantial feedback. So charter is not the concern, because when we, like you rightly said, when we drafted the charter for this, we kept it broad enough because we every time we don't want to go recharter. So totally all of these items do come under the charter.
Right, and I think like with the implementations, right, like Kay said, right, like
Yeah.
it's easier for them to like come and comment on this, right, like saying, hey, I'm doing this implementation,
Right,
like, and
right.
this is like kind of like the relevant parts for me, and I think it's probably easier to gather it, especially if there's people outside this working group who can come and comment. I think it's useful.
Yeah. No. Thank you, Suresh. I think yeah. Okay.
One last comment.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not meaning to beat anyone up, but we have stable implementations deployed.
There's
We
a
have
lot
stable
of.
implementations
I
deployed.
see a sense of confidence there, slightly over, but it's fine.
Well, maybe over or not, but the implementations have been deployed over for a year now.
Okay,
So
that's good.
they've been
No, good.
stable. So if you're looking for comments, let's get that and let's get you over that. But this draft needs to move. Thank you.
Okay, that's threatening call from a member. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you, Satoru-san.
Thank you.
We'll follow up in the mail. I think before we go on to the next topic, are there any volunteers to willing to review this document and post some feedback? Oh, okay, Lionel, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Linda, thank you. We need more. Okay, thank you. Okay, next topic. Next one is cats, is it? Okay. One second. Slides. Okay. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mingop, and this is the update of the computing aware traffic steering consideration for map architecture. The one has just been mentioned about. So this quick recap about this document is discuss the possible enhancement for map architecture to support the CAS concept provided by the CAD working group to address the optimal routing path problem in multiple service instance network scenario. Please go to the next slide. So in previous meeting, we already discussed about the centralized and decentralized customer deployment case, and we mentioned about how the current MEP route can be enhanced to support the case in each case, and how each centralized and distributed case can support in scenario like new EV request setup or EV mobility. Next slide, please. So after the previous meeting, we have some comment and feedback about first thing is the frequent change CAD matrix can cause BGP routing instability. How this document discussed about that. The second is support for sticky or stateful service in mobility case. Next slide, please. So for the first comment is about this frequent changing CAD matrix issue. So In other working group documents, there are different methods to mitigate this issue, which can be referred from different WG documents. The first one as example is an interdomain routing document, where they state that the frequency of the update for frequency chain matrix can be set at least 30 seconds to avoid instability. And actually, for the CAS working group is themselves, the CAS metric is also the focus of the working groups. In the use case requirement document, they mentioned that because the computing capability and resource uh, dynamically change, so the frequency need to be determined based on what event and such information need to be distributed. And inside the CAS metric document itself, they said that fine-grained matrix, low-level matrix, raw matrix can be aggregated to an higher level one, so that it can reduce the overhead and burden to routing protocol. So this instability caused by CAS matrix is already been equally being worked by other working group, especially the current group itself, and it's not the main focus of the document. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Now, the second is about the support for sticky and stiffened service in mobility case. So we suppose that if the MUP can get a certain information from the upper mobility management system. So for example, in 5G, if the MUP see, it can get certain information mode from the 5G. It can somehow support its sticky and stiffened service. So if the map controller has information, it can use the type 2 session transform route to ask a new RAM PE where the user move to use the previous routing path to the previous service instance. And then after the previous packet flow and stateful service migration is completed, then it will send another type 2 session transform route to update the routing path to the new optimal service instance. Next slide, please. So this is a figure from the previous meeting. This is a normal case where sticky and stable service support is not showing there. Next slide, please. And this is where it is supported. So the yellow box is what we're going to add. So if a stateful and sticky service need to be supported, then the mob controller you need to get that session information, session continuity information from the session information. Then it should send a session transform route to the new RAMP, so that the RAMP use that previous route to the previous instance. After step formation and previous flow complete, the mob controller now select the optimal service instance, the new one, and then send the new session transform route to the RAMP. And after that, you can use a part of the new service instance. Next slide, please. So it is a distributed case. It's a normal case. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. And this is a distributed case where stateful service is supported. It's similar to the previous one. The only difference is that in this case, the RAMP it can select the auto instance by itself after the certain transform route set that the previous flow to the previous instance is complete. Next slide, please. So that's it. It's for this update version. We added inside that document so that we address the previous meeting feedback. So we hope to see if there are any comments about this document in this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. One question. Can you generalize it and say that it's applicable to any mobility architecture? How do you, let's say, wireless LAN architecture, right? Can you generalize this CAT stuff?
Could you ask again?
Will you be able to, say that, it's applicable to any mobility architecture?
Yeah, it's supposed to do that.
Any mobility architecture with a radio and aggregation gateway, you'll be able to use this CATS, this approach.
Yes.
As long as the map architecture is routed to the into the mobile system. I think the draft proposed the CAT solution based on the map architecture. As long as the map architecture is independent from the in your the specific mobile service system. So it's be supported.
That's a dependency.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Thank you. Did anybody review this document? Any volunteers? Okay, final. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. TNG, you'll review. You, we have 0 reviews. I'm really frustrated actually. I want to move the documents forward, but there are no reviews, right? Without participation, we can't move forward, right? Yeah, in the next couple, as whenever you can, yeah, as early as possible. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. One question. So have you made some presentation in CATS working group?
Not yet, but this happens.
Okay.
Not yet.
I think it'll be better to have a
we notify the
introduction.
category group about this one.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Actually, I think get some feedback from CATS group as well.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. We move on to the next one, Lionel. Okay, thank you so much for agreeing to. I know we put you. You can come here if you're comfortable. Yeah, you can come here. We literally signed you up for this. Okay, there was a 6G summit a couple of weeks back. Lionel was there. I thought it's good to get some feedback. Some of the work we do is so much related to cellular and mobility in general. I thought it's good to know what's happening there. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. So, as I said, it's very basic because it was prepared a few minutes ago. So I was there, Charles was there too. A lot of people was there. So next slide, please. So here is the where you can find the information. So all the documents that were presented at the workshop are available online. You have also the chair summary that was proposed at the end of the workshop. I will not go too deep into the details, but at least it was something that was proposed at the end of the workshop, and it's fine. And I use this presentation for the DMM working group based on these slides. And we have also the 6G timeline that is also useful to remind. Next slide. So it was a general disclaimer for the presentation of the chairs, but it applies also to me, to myself. So it was just to, my advice would be to go through most of them. It's from a core network point of view, from a user plane point of view, it's quite easy to go through all the contribution because first of all, you have a lot of contribution addressing RAN aspects that is not covered here, and you can, with keywords and so on, find useful information in the different stuff. So here it just what was highlighted during this workshop. The workshop was just for information, presenting the view of the vendors, the operators, what we call the verticals, like satellites and so on, using the mobile system. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so just for information, we are about 1,600 people that were registered. We had a bunch of people in the room, especially when we had the, so we had RAN, SA, and CT. So RAN is a group responsible for radio access. SA defining the service and the architecture, general architecture, and CT defining the protocol. So we had compensation on Monday and on Tuesday, at the end of Tuesday. Otherwise, we had parallel sessions, one dealing only with RAN and the other one with CT and SA. So you have more than 200 input contributions coming from everywhere. Next slide. Yes, and so I didn't take all the slides that were presented in the presentation from the chairs at the end of the workshop. I just wanted to keep here some key aspects that could be relevant here in DMM. And for instance, if you're looking at the type of motivations that were raised during the workshop, obviously there is a need to support new services and new use cases. When we say new, it's not totally new time to time because it was something that was already foreseen for 5G, but it wasn't difficult to implement it based on the solutions that were deployed for 5G. For instance, you have the case of private networking, V2X, and so on, where it is difficult to provide the set of services based on the existing functionalities we have, and especially from the user plane point of view, we have some issues regarding the use of GTP. There is also the need to everything regarding sensing is quite important also, and sensing from an architecture point of view may imply a new data plane to be able to collect all the information and so on, but have more information as that. Just to say that it is not coming from out of the blue. There is key aspect over there, key requirements coming from either from the operators and from the vendors. What is funny also to highlight is that some of the operators were saying that we don't want any change in the current 5G architecture. So we just want to even rely on the same radio access technology. But at the same time, when they are introducing about the services and also some key points for the architecture, you can see that there is some willingness also to introduce some change. Yes, I don't know why it was like this, but the last one was a network simplification, where from a network point of view, so including the control plane and the user plane, there is a need for more for simplification, I would say. Next slide. Yeah, I don't know why it is like this, but anyhow. Yeah, one interesting point was the information coming, especially coming from the operator side, with the slow adoption of key capabilities, and one of them is the slicing. Saying the slicing from a service point of view was great. How to implement it in the existing 5G network is very difficult. So they are even keen to think about a fresh new solution to be able to provide the same service. Actually, it's the same kind for a lot of services, I would say, saying that it is possible to do it, but it's so complicated today that they would like to have, so complicated today, so they would like to have something maybe easier to implement and to deploy with several and many use cases. It's relying also to the deployment inefficiencies. So obviously, so you are not aware, but we had also different configuration between 5G radio access, 6G radio access, with a core network being 5G or 6G. So they don't want to do the same. But it also applied to the issues that we had in the control plane and the user plane. So here it is quoted the use of HTTP2 that is used today for the signaling, but the same type of issues were raised for the user plane. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, and I would say that this is the main stuff that we should. So you don't have to rely on my words, and actually it's not my words. It was what was proposed as an output. But first of all, it was quite surprising to see so many presentation seeking for simplicity in the network at all the aspects, especially regarding the core network. They realize that there is so many functionalities described, and you may have so many combinations that you need to have something flexible enough to accommodate all these requirements, either coming from the service operator or from the verticals. And you need to have something flexible enough either in the control plane and to the user plane to accommodate all the situations. So if you want a basic voice services, for instance, you may have to deploy tunnels and so on to maintain IP mobility and so on, to maintain the station when you have IP mobility and so on. But from other, you will need also to be able to deploy a simple private network with a private service requirement and so on, without impacting the core network from operator side. Obviously, everything needs to be cloud native today. AI native, saying that you will have AI almost everywhere. It's up to discussion, but almost everywhere. But the key point is that this AI services will be used also for the network, saying that these AI services will help the function inside the network to take decision and so on. And you will have also the network that will help AI services, for instance, for everything related to data collection, inference, and so on. And software-driven deployments, it was there. So you have the notion of a programmable network and so on that is now. You have also the service aware. So people are thinking about having something, as I said, more flexible, AI native, and programmable. So when it was asked, so we had dedicated presentation saying that SRv6 was a candidate. Some other, they were just speaking about programmable network or protocols, but it was assumed that it was SRv6, and it was even commented like that. And next slide.
One question on the AI native design. What exactly are they going to define? New interfaces or anything that you can share on this?
It's up to you. It's up to you.
It's completely a
Please,
requirement.
you're welcome. No, the idea. So for sure, 3GPP will not define any AI services itself. It's more how to interconnect different services, AI agents in the network. So you have the notion of AI agentic servers. And all this kind. So we have to decide in 3GPP what kind of interaction. So for instance, we will have to define maybe the communication between agents and how to collect data, especially if you have data coming from the UE, something that will have to be defined by 3GPP and so on. Charles?
Yeah, I was just going to add Charles Eckel. One thing, and I think it was already mentioned, but this concept of maybe needing a new data plane and really AI native sensing, just a bunch of other things that I think there was a general feeling that, wow, there's a lot of information that we need to be able to pass around, and we don't want to create like a bunch, like for an AI specific way of doing it, a sensing specific way of doing it. Maybe we need a more general, what was referred to as a data plane, which would be separate from what we currently have. That's kind of, it seemed to be that was the overall thought, is there's a lot of information that we want to be able to gather and do something with, just at a very high level.
Thank you. Please.
I didn't get a good feel for that.
I didn't catch the question.
The kind of general way of like, how are people viewing SRv6? It was brought up in several presentations. There was really, I'd say, one of the negative things of the workshop. People just had barely enough time to present. There was really no time for discussion and questions. So, but what did come up, some people were very specific about SRv6. No one really pushed back on it. So I think you had those who seemed very much in favor of it, and that was about it. The other thing was programmability and flexibility. A lot of people mentioned that without calling out SRv6. So I'd say overall, it seemed perhaps a bit receptive to it.
Okay, cool. At least eventually it will be adopted. Yeah, thank you.
So maybe I can use the next slide.
Yeah.
If I remember. Okay, so in the core network, so there is, but I think here what I wanted to highlight is in the core network, as was said by Charles, you will have to accommodate any type of services, AI, connectivity, and so on. And so you have, again, the simplification of the architecture. Maybe next slide. Next. Yes, this one is important because so far when you are looking at 3GPP system, everything was designed on the fact that you have services related to the UE, and you want to provide a service to the UE. So, and now more and more, and it was already introduced, we are not waiting for 6G to introduce that, but what we can see is that today, if you are looking at only at the data collection use cases, you have a lot of use cases where you need to collect data, and you have different way today to be able to support that. And in 6G, we will have even more use cases. So at least it was one view, I think, shared by a lot of people during the workshop, is that we need to have a unified way to manage this data. And one unified way would be to use a specific plan. and a specific plan for that, a plan that will be not linked to the current user plane. And the question after that will be what kind of protocol we will use in that user plane. So this was something that was either clearly highlighted or it was assumed based on the architecture and so on. Next slide. Yes, and here it is something that was identified as the stage 3. So stage 3 is the protocol aspects, and the protocol aspects are done mainly in CT regarding IP protocol. So obviously we will have a discussion about the evolution of the current control plane. So today you were using HTTP2, and QUIC might be used instead. We have also some discussion regarding SCTP and QUIC, but it's not relevant here. But for all the rest, you can see that we need to work on the user plane protocol evolution. As I said, we need also data protocol for the data plane. Data plane today is not so clear because you may have only one data plane, but you would like to have some would like to have even two different data plane, one for computing and one for data. So the distinction between both is not so relevant, but at least we will have to work on that. IMS is not related, but for the rest, the protocol for the communication between the agent is something that we need to work on. And in general, the impact on the existing protocols. So obviously, if you are looking at GTP, even if there is still proponent for the reuse of GTP in this new architecture, we will need to see how this protocol will cope with the new requirements. And if it's not able to cope, is there any way to extend this protocol or to use an alternative? But it will not cope with the programmable aspects proposed by someone, by several people. Just on the timeline, next. Yeah, so the goal is to have something available in 2030. So it's something that we have started last year with the study from high-level point of view with the service requirements. And it's assumed to be completed around 2030. Next slide. Next slide. So what is relevant from a timeline point of view is that the work on essay, so on the right side, CG study item essay, you can see that the work on essay 2, the study item, the first study item will be approved in June this year. And in essay 2 is where you have the architecture. And I think it's people interested by the user plane should be also involved in the discussion around the architecture because we will have a brand new architecture, maybe a new control plane, and this will impact the user plane. Or you could say that the user plane could also impact the design of the new control plane. So it's something valuable to have. And for the pure protocol aspects, the studies will start at the end of this year. At the end of this year. So it will be the initiation of the study, but the study it's about 9 months, 1 year, and after that you will have the normative phase. But I think that if there is anything new that need to be introduced or to be investigated in 3GPP, you should focus on this year to be able at least to figure out what should be done and to contribute. Obviously, nothing will come from IETF. If there is anything to be done in 3GPP, it's contribution driven. So you need to propose something and you need to discuss inside 3GPP. And that concludes this. Again, it's not my personal view. I have my view on that, but it was just to share it with you.
Thank you so much, Lionel. Appreciate it. I asked for this, and so that FYI. Yeah, thank you so much. And with that, I think you're done with all the presentations. Yes. Oh, Jeffrey. Yeah. Oh, questions. Actually, I completely forgot to. Yeah, please. Yeah.
So Jeffrey from Juniper, I just want to add something to this. So in DMM, we have been talking about socializing this idea of integrating the access node and the UPF together, and we made it very clear that the eventual work needs to be done in 3GPP, and we have really just been socializing the idea here. So I actually went to this workshop and presented our view there. And I see that a lot of use cases actually can very much benefit from our proposal. That's one thing. Another thing is that I also talked to 3 or 4 operators after the workshop, and they actually are very interested in this proposal because they see that benefit this proposal brings. So this is just an update because it's related to our discussion here. Yeah.
Right. No,
Thanks.
great feedback. And absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Tianji?
I try to echo what Jeff just said there, and also Lionel, I know you shared some opinion from your side with some box around some emphasized points here, but I noticed you left the NTN TN integration out. From what I have joined, I joined it remotely for the workshop. From my measure, like more than 80% of presentations were around talking about NTN, those type of things. And then that wise, but without talking about satellite, but if you consider that like it's a dynamic infrastructure for mobile communication and mobile network things, when you consider that part, it's more relevant to the DMM here, distributed things. So, I know you leave that one out, but that one does give us some, motivation about the like a dynamic mobile network things. So, what the reason you leave that out? So that is
because from with my background from the core network point of view, what was made clear and it was one of the reasons why we need to reshape the way that we are designing, especially the user plan. What was made clear here is that any type of access network will be natively supported. So if you are looking at, it was not, so even if 5G, for instance, we have integrated the NTN, satellites are already there. So satellite is not something new for 6G. What they want to have, it's just to go on with the new service requirements on, but it's already there. But the satellites were integrated, it was the same for Wi-Fi. They were integrated based on the fact that we are using GTPU. So you need to create interworking function and so on. What was made clear, and it's why it's a simple word, but simplification here is relevant and important in the summary, is that they want to get rid of all this type of interworkings that you need to have. So yeah, I agree that NTN is something there and should be part of that. But my assumption here is that we need to accommodate any type of access. That is not the case today with a GTPU, or it's more difficult. And but I agree that it could be including there. It could be included. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. If there are no further questions, thank you again, Lionel.
But my personal point, and I will just highlight it once again, is that if there is anything to be done, as Jeff said and by others, you need in a way and another to contribute in 3GPP and to be part of the discussion. Because, for instance, even I don't want to call, but you have some key operators saying that they don't want any change, but in the same slide saying that we want, let's say, SRv6. and we need also to help them from an IETF point of view on having a good idea on how to design to accommodate in the simplest way, for instance, SRv6 if it is, and to make us and to consider also the link between the control plane and the user plane, because we are not in the same way that it was in 5G, where introducing SRv6 means that there is no way to change the control plane and the tunnel approach and so on. Today, everything is open. Obviously, we need at the end to have a complete system, but you could consider that it is open and it's up to the community, IETF community, but also 3GPP community, to find a common baseline and to work on.
Maybe one final question, Lionel. Any focus on simplification, like the senseless complexity in the 3GPP system? Any view on simplifying the stack? No, no. Answer is in the question.
The question is it should be simpler.
Yeah.
or too much flexibility involved in the control and the things can. So basically that is reflecting what you just talked about, how to make it more simplified things. Yeah. In the workshop they did. Yeah.
But
Quite a few companies actually mentioned.
But from a pure radio mobile point of view, it's efficient enough with GTPU and so on. But as soon as you are considering other type of access like wireline, Wi-Fi, and so on, you have interworking function, you have a specific box to put in the middle, specific interfaces, and it's everything but simple.
82 plus, yeah.
Yeah. Charles
Yes,
Eckel.
Charles, yeah.
Certainly, simplification was a word that was in many of the presentations. Also, reducing total cost of ownership or operation. So I think there's a big desire for simplification, but we didn't get to reach any agreements or even discussion around, well, what are we going to take out? And so you see a lot of self-contradictions in the slides, as Lionel mentions, and that's because people just presented what their view was, and this is a summary of all those views. It's not after having discussion and coming to some agreement around which things to prioritize or any of that. That still has to happen. So what you see now is kind of a wish list that everyone had, and sometimes it's contradictory, like don't change anything, but simplify and add new functionality and new data planes. So it contradicts itself, and that's just because it's a summary of everything that was brought up.
I understand. Thank you. Maybe we'll take this one last comment here.
Yeah, and my reading of that mentioning of the simplification, in a lot of cases, they refer to the so many options of doing the NSA. I think if they solve that problem, it will be a lot more simplified. That's how I see it.
It's true, and it's something that I've mentioned, but not only because if you look at all the interconnections that you need between the different network functions to be able to support. First of all, the stateful model that you have in the AMF, the willingness to bypass the AMF when needed and so on will change the way the signaling will be done. And there is also some attempt to have signaling using the user plan, not having a dedicated plan, but using the user plan. So all these alternatives may have also an impact and may go towards the simplification also.
Indeed, there are many things that could be simplified or as a candidate for simplification. But yes, I was just saying that NSC option was the biggest complaint.
Okay. Thank you so much. With this, we wrap this meeting. Yeah, wrap up this meeting. Thank you. See you guys in IETF 1, 2, 3. Yeah, thank you. Madrid. Yeah. Madrid. Yeah. Thank you so much for the excellent, as always. You are the true chair. You are the true chair. I panic. I panic. I can't load the slides. I can't block the slides. My brain freezes.
Always struggle with this.
Always struggle with this technology.